Hello, everyone. This is Barbara Humpton, CEO of Siemens USA, and you're listening to The Optimistic Outlook. Energy is prosperity, part of the backbone of the American economy, and advancing the energy transition keeps us on a path to energy abundance. So today, I'm excited to share with you some highlights from a conversation I had on this topic with Bill Gates. I had a chance to interview Bill during Climate Week NYC at an event hosted by the real estate services and investment firm CBRE alongside Breakthrough Energy. That's Bill's global network of technology innovators advancing the energy transition. One of the trends I'm following very closely right now is the rise of a new industrial tech sector as we bring the physical world online. Think about factories being transformed by software, AI, and smart systems. Well, there's another layer to this, because this transformation won't just enable higher productivity, it will be foundational to making industry more efficient and sustainable. It's part of how we spark, as Bill likes to put it, a clean industrial revolution. Bill and Breakthrough Energy and Siemens are focused on a reality that building a sustainable future requires us to figure out how to decarbonize buildings and industrial processes, and to do this without requiring a, quote, green premium or sacrificing productivity or profitability. No, sustainability and productivity. The industrial tech sector and a clean industrial revolution are two sides of the same coin. This conversation focused more on buildings. Buildings represent 40% of all global carbon emissions. And you're going to hear how Bill balances optimism with an intense focus on what it takes to solve the challenge before us. That stood out to me as Bill detailed the current state of the clean industrial revolution.
Well, it's kind of miraculous, since the 1800s, how we made steel cheap, cement cheap. You flip your light switch, the light seems to come on a high percentage of the time. The energy intensity of both the materials and services that we just take for granted are phenomenal. And it's kind of a tragic thing that the hydrocarbons that provide all of that, cheaper than bottled water, more energy dense than any battery will ever design, and yet we've committed ourselves now to completely stop using all of those hydrocarbons. And it's not just one area. If you had to say, okay, this is just about electricity, or this is just about transport, or just about buildings, that would be super difficult. Or if you said it's just this one geography, just these Americans, man, they use a lot of electricity. We're 14% of emissions now, and that number's going down. So it's a fascinating problem. And I always am an optimist about innovation, that if we get IQ and policy and some economic signals driving us to invent new things, particularly in this day and age, and I would have said that before AI, and it's even more true with that as an accelerant, I think we can innovate our way through this.
Another point of optimism comes in what Bill described in his latest State of the Transition report, a subtle but important perspective shift from the investors and corporations that Breakthrough Energy engages with. 2024 delivered a real mindset shift in the private sector with sustainability. Investors, Bill writes, are getting off the sidelines and engaging in clean tech opportunities in meaningful ways. And I've observed how business leaders now see how there's more at stake than merely shrinking carbon footprints. This is about strengthening productivity and profitability. It's about assuring the enduring strength of the corporation. Things were a lot different in 2015 when Breakthrough Energy was founded, and interestingly, when Siemens set its goals to be carbon neutral. Here's Bill reflecting on that.
In 2015, the high-risk capital markets, venture capital, had decided that this realm was unattractive because a number of funds saw that the timeframes were too long, the capital was too much, the risk was too high. They didn't really understand pilot plants. They didn't understand the regulatory things, even getting from the lab to the real world, certain efficiency things. So it was kind of ironic that when you have this commitment, real positive milestone of, okay, we'll all write these national plans and we'll always update them and reduce the numbers. But how the heck are you going to do that? If you make steel in your country, how are you ever going to reduce that number? I mean, and to me, it was kind of like madness because there was no innovation element. The R&D budgets for energy had gone down every year for 20 years in the United States. When we went out to find great ideas for climate innovations, we looked all over the world. 80% of what we found was here in the US. Amazing companies, amazing people, and even people who weren't trained in the area who met a professor who said, this is a big problem. So they said, okay, I'll just take my IQ and go learn about steel. And it's like, wow, and you figured something out.
Think about this for a second. Breakthrough Energy scoured the world to see if the private sector ingenuity to drive the energy transition forward existed. And they not only found it, they discovered that U.S. innovators were well up to the task. So we have this massive global challenge in the energy transition. But in the United States, we've seen a private sector response that's ignited a new ecosystem of innovators. This has given rise to hundreds of new companies that are growing the economy and creating new career opportunities. One thing that's gotten us past the tipping point, which Bill noted in our conversation, was the recognition among innovators that it wasn't realistic to expect consumers or companies to pay more, to pay a green premium, to achieve sustainable outcomes. A decade ago, innovators and investors really got focused on not only developing the necessary technologies, but on trying to zero out green premiums. And that puts us in a much stronger position today. We're now at a point where the technologies needed to become sustainable are available, and it doesn't require paying more to deploy them. The more we can scale technologies, the more we can start to make big progress reducing emissions, and the more we can continue to rapidly eliminate premiums overall. With that in mind, I asked Bill which clean industrial revolution technologies he was most excited about, especially to transform buildings.
One of the greatest problems we have in getting to zero is that we generate weather-dependent energy sources, solar and wind, are not constant. One of the interesting things about that is buildings can often shift their energy load across the 24-hour period, can take the electricity when it's available, lower cost, different times, and either have a cold store, or heat store, or chemical store, or battery store. But it requires participation of all those different groups to come together. In the context of buildings, intelligent building controls, a lot of great companies working on that. Breakthrough has one called 75F. All the traditional companies in that space now using AI more and more. You've got ways of making windows so that the heat doesn't go out, the cold doesn't come in. And then you have electricity generation. That's a gigantic space, along with the transmission and storage. And eventually, you get to where solar fields are today, which is modulo the grid and reliability equation. Those are just normal money. You don't have to ask people to care about climate in order to raise that. So it's great to have enlightened buyers who can take a long-term view, who have enough margin that they want to be a leader.
I really like Bill's comments on the power of collaboration and the idea of enlightened buyers. At Siemens, we have experts out in the field applying those intelligent building controls Bill mentioned. We've made sustainability part of our core business. More than 90% of our business enables our customers to achieve a positive sustainability impact. I'm proud to say that last year, Siemens helped customers avoid around 190 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions. That's a 24% increase in avoided emissions over the prior year. But let me tell you, we do not have all the answers. We're learning this all the time as we support customers and advance our own company net zero goal. We need to be part of an ecosystem. And I'll also share that one of our most successful partnerships has been with a breakthrough energy company called Luxwall. This is a company that offers an alternative to traditional glass for windows, one that can reduce energy usage by up to 45%. We're now starting to install these windows in our own facilities. And by the way, I asked our head of real estate, how hard was it to make the business case to bring this product forward? I expected a longer payback period. Well, the business case made itself. The energy efficiency gains lead to lower costs in the life cycle, and that leads to a more rapid payback. To close out our conversation, I asked Bill what he expects to see over the next 5 years as net zero technologies continue to mature and the business case for them gets stronger.
Well, the number of pieces that need to be brought together is daunting. And so we have not peaked yet. That is, we have not had the year that the maximum global emissions took place. I always have to be careful. Am I in the meeting where we're being analytically blunt? Or are we in the, hey, sing to the choir, hallelujah? But we can make really rapid progress. I think people are going to be surprised as those things roll out. And believe me, once you have cheap green source of electricity, it makes all the stuff we're talking about a lot easier. I think mankind will step up to this. I encourage everybody to learn about this stuff and get involved. It's really fun to be working on the cutting edge of these things.
Bill's final words: learn and get involved. And to wrap up, let me say as well that at Siemens, we're eager to continue forging partnerships to do what it takes to bring these technologies to bear. Connect with me on LinkedIn or send an email to optimist.us@siemens.com. As I said in the opening, we are now witnessing the rise of a new industrial tech sector that, yes, as Bill said, will also ignite a clean industrial revolution. This is where our marketing forces and American ingenuity are taking us. And behind it all will be a powerful, multi-generational workforce, which is a topic I want to focus on more in future episodes, and that I actually just addressed in my latest LinkedIn newsletter. I'll drop a link to that in my show notes, where you'll also find links to the Breakthrough Energy State of the Transition report and more. Thanks to the Breakthrough Energy team for supporting us on this episode and for the partnership. And to those listening in, thank you for being part of our network. And please help us continue growing the network. Share this episode with people who are engaged or who you'd like to engage in this effort of building a sustainable future. Talk to you soon.
Please follow us on social media and on your favorite podcasting platform. Thank you for tuning in.